Board of Supervisors to order, please. We will start with a Pledge of Allegiance. Please remain standing because that will be followed with a moment of reflection. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We will have the reading of the notice, please.
An educational meeting of the Marathon County Board of Supervisors will be held at the Marathon County Courthouse, Assembly Room, 500 Forest Street in the city of Wausau at 7 p.m. on Thursday, April 18, 2019, and the agenda was duly signed and posted.
Thank you. I would like to request all please silence your cell phones and any other electronic devices or put them on vibrate, please, as to not to interrupt the meeting. And we will proceed to roll call. Please sign in. Supervisor Durham, please. And we will proceed. Oops. Supervisor Krause, if you please put it on the table. And okay, we'll change the batteries on it. All right, and we will proceed, and the clerk will mark you present. I'd like to welcome all the visitors that we have here tonight, including the viewing audience, and look to hopefully educate some individuals and the viewing audience on the workings of the county board. Moving on to item number 7, 15-minute public comment. We did have one individual who tentatively mentioned and reported that he would address the county board. Is Mike Bender here? But he also said that it depended. He may not be able to attend. All right, seeing that he is not here, again, is Mike Bender here? All right, well, then we will move on to number 8, review and discussion of Tuesday meeting agenda items. Item number 8A1, denial of claims, Tara Tessman. Any questions or concerns on that denial? Supervisor Zereni.
Thank you, Chairman Gibbs. Help me understand, both these claims are very similar with the snow plows and overpasses and so forth, and how we come to the conclusion, our insurance company, that we have no liability.
Well, we deny those claims, and then they are moved forward for negotiations. So it is a standard process that takes place. We deny them, and then the insurance company negotiates with them.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay. Denial of claim, Angela Hoffman. All righty. Under ordinances, Environmental Resources Committee, under 8B1A, Town of Spencer rezone, Michael and Sandra Altman. Ordinance 3-19. Okay. 8B2, Forestry Recreation Committee, Parks Commission, and Environmental Resources Committee. Under A, amend Section 16.06, Section 16.08, and Section 19.01, and Section 19.14, Section 19.15, Section 19.24, the General Code of Ordinances, County Forest Use Regulations, posted rules and regulations, and update the schedule for cash deposits. Ordinance 4-19. Any discussion? Okay, from item number 8B3, Infrastructure Committee, a revision of ordinance 7.12, parent 9, designating ATV routes. Ordinance 5-19. Any discussion? Supervisor Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just like to give you an update. When we brought in the 4 resolutions a couple of months ago, there were some concerns about our safety and some of the other aspects of our ordinance. So we took those back to the committee and we re-looked at the ATV ordinance, and we looked at it not only in the context of how does it affect ATV use on county highways, but Jim Griesbach reached out to Jamie Pauley and others in the Parks Department because we allow ATVs to use the Burma Forestry Unit, and there are others. So we've tried to develop or look at the policy of ATV use on our property, but the ordinance today deals specifically with our county roads. And what we did is the old ordinance mirrored or incorporated the statutes that were in place at the time that it was adopted, and those state statutes have changed, so therefore our county ordinance was out of date, and there were concerns over headgear and other things, and we basically have adopted through reference and incorporation the state statutes so that if they change, our ordinance will change, so we'll be current as things change. And one of those changes is when the original ordinance was adopted, OWI was only alcohol related, and other substance abuse or substance related prohibitions while operating while intoxicated or impaired. In addition to that, we set up criteria, which is a policy that will be reviewed at the time that an application is made to use county trunk highways, and that will factor in a number of, look at a number of factors in the criteria, including we want county trunk highways to be used as a last resort. Have you made efforts to look at other alternatives? But we'll look at traffic volumes, we'll look at sight distance, posted speeds, average roadbed width, bridge. If they're crossing a bridge, how long is that crossing? What's the commercial truck traffic volumes on that road? What's the length of the route, and other factors? And we'll be involving both the Sheriff's Department from a highway safety perspective, as well as the Parks Department through their Trails program in the review process, and encouraging them to make recommendations. The goals will continue to be safety first, and if they can meet the criteria, the Highway Commissioner will make a determination. If the group that makes the request will have to have insurance, they will have to also install the signs and pay for the cost of installing the signs. And if they're not happy with it, the decision will be appealed to the county administrator, and the committee will be removed from that process. That's consistent with many of the other processes and procedures that we have within the county in terms of appeal. The one difference that we did make, we adopted and referenced a number of the state statutes relative to speed limits and other things, is that we prohibit, or I should say we require that ATV operators on the county trunk highway systems be 16 or have a valid driver's license, which was one of the ways to get away from the underage drinking and the safety concerns that some of you had. And I think we're consistent with the state statutes. We go a little bit farther, and this ordinance is a step in that process, as well as the policy that the county highway commissioner will use to review and approve those going forward.
Okay, any discussion or questions on, again, that revision? Supervisor Guild.
Just a question for clarification. Supervisor Robinson just mentioned that it'll be restricted to 16 and older, but I'm not reading that line in here. The only reference to age I see is all persons under 18 need to wear a helmet. Am I misunderstanding where the information is located? Where am I supposed to be looking?
Corp Counsel has the,
Look at number 10 on all
Okay.
drivers of ATV, UTVs must possess a valid driver's license.
That would be the part I missed. Thank you.
Supervisor Christensen.
Thank you. Supervisor Robinson cleared that up. Thank you.
Okay, Supervisor Johnson. Okay. So many people willing to answer the question. Any other discussion? Any other discussion on that agenda item? Okay, next one is from the Infrastructure Committee, revision of Ordinance 7.25, Parent 9, designating ATV routes, Ordinance 5-19. Okay, moving on to resolutions. Item C, 1, Infrastructure Committee. A, imploring the Wisconsin Department of Transportation to reconstruct Business Highway 51 due to its horrendous condition between State Trunk Highway 29 in the village of Rothschild and the Eau Claire River in the city of Schofield. Resolution 19-19. Supervisor Boots.
Who came up with horrendous?
I'll refer that to the Infrastructure Committee Chairman.
I believe it was the village of Weston.
Is that a Whistler Pacer term?
Well, there were a number of other things. There were a number of changes we did make, but we left the word horrendous in.
Supervisor Rosenberg.
Yeah, I also was inspired by the language used in this resolution. And so I just wanted to share with you part of a poem that I wrote about it, if you don't mind. I do. Okay, it's an open mic. I got this. Once upon an afternoon snowing, well, to Target I was going, over many a quaint and curious heaving of forgotten road. While I nodded, nearly whiplashing, suddenly there came a smashing, as if some devil devilishly and horrendously rapping at my 4x4. 'Tis some pothole, I muttered, destroying the suspension of my 4x4. Only this and nothing more.
Quoth the poet, nevermore.
Supervisor Durham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was taken aback by the use of the word horrendous, too. But the other issue, it's not so much an issue, but I really haven't inspected that recently, that stretch of highway. But I am quite familiar with the roads around Mosinee, and would you believe it or not, someone would believe it, all the way from here up to Bayfield, I travel, and we've got a lot of sections that are pretty bad. And one of the worst, and it just grinds at me, we spent $50-some million to make a really nice Seaway Airport. And people come in there, if they haven't been here before, they go down Highway 153, they go sometimes across the bridge into Mosinee, which that's got probably the worst expansion joints I've ever seen on it, from day one on a new bridge. And what do they see? What impression do they get? And I'm also one who's fussy about my cars. I just cringe every time I go in that stretch and bang in the front end of that car. And it's, I mean, there's other places that need to be fixed too. And I agree with this, but, and I talk to these legislators all the time, and I complain and grind at them. And So what's happened in the last 8 years? The debt for DOT was 11.2% of their budget in 2011. Today it's over 21%. They borrowed money and that's it. And you talk to them and, oh yes, yeah, but it just sits. And I don't know. This is a step forward. There's no doubt about that. But boy, there's some other things that need to be done. And it's interesting too. I mentioned Bayfield. I drove all the way up there in the rain and back one weekend. And you know that I go on mostly Highway 13, and that's pretty good. But I was on Highway 97 too, north of, and it's just disintegrating. I mean, every place you look, there's a place you could plug the dike, so to speak. And I don't know where this is all going, but not much is happening. And we need to do something about it, you know, or try at least. You have got to try. Talk to these people. Thank you.
Supervisor Stark.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To kind of clue in the issue of that piece of road, and you haven't driven it, I drive it like every day, and the answer from the DOT or whoever was to put a nice sign on there for the last 6-7 years saying rough road. And it's like riding through a parking lot with speed bumps every 10 feet. And so now I know, it just occurred to me, I could make a claim, have it disallowed for the next time I have to have my front end aligned from driving on that piece of road. But one of the other things is I was touched by, and if this is going to add impact to all of our future resolutions, I would like to implore on every one of our future resolutions. I like the imploring, because when I saw we're going to implore the state, I thought, hey, you know, maybe that'll work on letting us implore them to monkey with raising taxes and other things that we want to do as far as equalized values, et cetera. But anyway, I just thought I would, you know, I'd invite you to come home with me tonight, and I'll take you down that road, and you'll have whiplash after we're done.
Supervisor Gomes.
Move to deny Supervisor Rosenberg's claim.
Supervisor Robinson.
The reason that this is before us is because Marathon County provides the maintenance on that road. And Jim Griesbach has in the past referenced the fact that they have a difficult time getting drivers that want to work on that segment because it's in such bad shape. And there have been issues relative to jurisdictional transfers where the state wants to turn that back over to the locals, and the locals aren't necessarily interested in taking it, which has, I think, led to some of the delays in it. And it is, from a county's perspective, a difficult stretch of highway for us to maintain. And we only maintain consistent with what they tell us we can do and within budgets under the maintenance agreements that we have with them. And I think it's at the point where multiple jurisdictions were trying to adopt similar resolutions. We did change implore in the body of the resolution to respectfully request. So we're trying to be a little bit more respectful here. And you really would get jarred if you went to Shopko versus Target, because Shopko is low. You'd have to drive more of that stretch of the highway. So I think this brings the point. I've received, as committee chair, multiple complaints from citizens on driving on Highway 29, which again we maintain for the state, particularly this side of 97 where people's alignments have gone out. It points to the need of a comprehensive statewide funding policy for our local and state roads in terms of both construction, reconstruction, and maintenance. And the governor's budget tries to address that, and I would encourage you to consider supporting that or urging others to support it. But without the funds, it's difficult to do it, and particularly when the responsibility financially and planning-wide rests with another unit of government, we need to occasionally step in and encourage them to accelerate the timeline for the projects. And even if this goes through, it's a 5 to 10 year process. It's not a quick process.
Supervisor Opel.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbs. I was at a listening session here about a month ago with Representative Spiros and Senator Petrowski down at Weston. And they were made well aware of this section of road, and they were taken quite to task on it. All I can say is they're aware of it. What's going to happen, I don't know, but we have to keep up the pressure, and if you see them, say something. Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion on that issue? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to number 8C, 1B, continuation of access control, County Trunk Highway K, Marathon County, Resolution 20-19. Any questions? Okay, moving on to item 8.2A, Human Resources, Finance and Property Committee. A, approve 2019 budget transfers from Marathon County Department of Appropriations, Resolution 21-19. Okay, and 8.3A, Public Safety Committee and Human Resources and Finance and Property Committee. Create 2 full-time deputy sheriff positions for courthouse security and abolish 8 residue positions from 13 to 5 part-time county security deputies. Resolution 22-19. Any questions? Okay, Supervisor Gomes.
Yeah, could the sheriff explain how that's going to work, please?
I would invite the sheriff up to address the issue.
Thank you. So currently we have 13 part-time deputies assigned to court security. And of those, we're looking to reduce that number from 13 to 5 part-time court security deputies, and then have 2 additional full-time officers assigned to court security. So that would be the offset there. We're not seeking any additional funds because we'll be able to cover that with the money that is saved. And the reason why we're doing this is in the last 2 years, we've lost 14 part-time deputies to other agencies and to ourselves. Our expectations when you're a part-time deputy with us is that you're trained at the same level as our full-times because of the fact that they're representing the sheriff's office in not only duties here, but also out on the road, and by the fact that they're representing Marathon County. So they're a pretty hot ticket item for a lot of law enforcement agencies around this area, including us. And we've lucked out and we've hired a number of our court security because we have an opportunity to see them in action and know that they're going to fulfill our needs. We're going to save money on this by moving this in this fashion and also have a more consistent court security field out there with the 2 additional full-time deputies.
Okay, any other questions? Supervisor Stark.
I would just add to what the sheriff said. There was a more lengthy presentation to finance, and in that presentation, not to steal your thunder, sir, but there was a lot of money spent in recruiting the replacements. So they got to go through the physical, the medical, the psyche, all of this stuff, and all of these people, we've been churning a group. So by not churning so many and by having the full-time, which incentivizes people to stay rather than to jump when they have a full-time opportunity somewhere else, the net result is on top of the regular bureaucratic and training initiatives, the cost of recruiting and going through all of the necessary stuff that has to be done to hire them, there's a lot of dough involved right there that is, as you had said, Sheriff, going to be saved because we're not going to be doing this every 2 or 3 months. And so that's an expense, not to mention that it's offset by the salaries just being reduced to the few. So that's just to kind of broaden the perspective on the issue.
And to just touch on that, just equipment alone for those part-time deputies and also doing the psychological, the physical, and other testing that needs to be done is $30,000. So that's a saving in itself because you're going to have the full-time staff that you only have to do that one time with rather than consistently with the part-time staff. And then the other thing, we're going to see a first-year savings of around $26,000 just in this first-year move. It really is a money saver for us and provides us a consistency that we need to effectively provide security for this building.
Okay, any other questions? I think, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 8, 4A, Environmental Resources Committee, possible reconsideration for the purpose of amending general responsibility resolution for urban non-point source stormwater grants, resolution 14-19, and I would request to ask the Corp Counsel to explain the issue.
The reason for this, yes. You'll remember last month we had 2 resolutions before you regarding this stormwater grant, and the one that I brought to your attention had to do with the annual reporting that was going to follow the application for the grant, and we removed the words "or designee" from that resolution. Turns out the DNR was more interested in the original grant resolution than in the annual report resolution, and that one was passed unanimously. So it is my understanding that the DNR wants the same language removed from that. So we'll be requesting a motion to reconsider that. And once it's reconsidered, we can amend that resolution to remove the or designee language. My understanding is that the DNR objects because it's indeterminate. They want somebody on the resolution. They want a position designated by the county board to be responsible for all the aspects of the grant that's going to be applied for, as opposed to they don't want something down the road where people are pointing their fingers at, well, it was supposed to be their responsibility. So they want that specifically spelled out in the resolution, and I'm sorry that I didn't. Actually, the chair had the right resolution when he called it, and if you remember, I was like, oh no, it's actually the other one. The chair was correct, and I should not have done that.
First time.
So that's what's happening here.
Okay, any questions on that possible reconsideration? Okay, we're down to announcements and/or requests. We have some proceeding books from last year. If you did not respond to Kim's email and request a copy of that, we have a few extra copies. The people that had requested a printed copy have already had those placed at your station. So we have those. And Supervisor Tremelling.
I was to a meeting over in McMillan over there, and they had the Planning Commission and also the town board regarding a pit for Denny Stretz, and I figured this was going to be on the agenda.
That's coming to the Board of Adjustment on April 25.
Okay, it'll be on next meeting.
It's actually going to the Board of Adjustment for a request for a conditional use permit. So that's not going to be coming to the county board. I'll give you the time and date for the meeting, though, if you're interested in attending.
Supervisor Pfeffrick.
I've got a little bit of a shout out to Supervisor Boots. Supervisor Boots and his partner Sam May had a little bit of success recently in a fishing tournament. Not only did they win the recent AIM Weekend Walleye Series event in Green Bay, they dominated it. They had a 40.62 pound 5-fish bag, which beat the second place team by 9 pounds. Matt's truly my hero.
Supervisor Seiler.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. If you remember, about mid-March, each of us received an email from the department head of Parks, Recreation, and Forestry, Jamie Polly, offering to attend any listening session if we had something going on in our district. That was with a message that she sent about an online survey that they're also doing on the Park and Recs Department. So I did take Jamie up on her kind invitation, and I wanted to let you know that she was able to attend 2 of the annual town meetings in my district. She attended on Tuesday night, town of Emmett, and last night in the town of Cleveland. And her wonderful presentation was very well received by residents in both towns, and it was really nice, and she appreciated getting out into the rural areas, seeing the county parks. And I share this with you just to let you know that she is available to do this, and also encourage you to take a look. So the survey time is over, but there's going to be, again, maybe you can find your email, but I'll just read this off to you. On Tuesday, April 30th, at 6 o'clock p.m. at the Marathon County Public Library, they're going to have the results of that survey, but also an opportunity for additional input on that. So take a look at that. And again, I just want to say thank you so much for Jamie's participation in our rural district. It was very well appreciated. Thank you.
Excuse me, any other announcements? If not, there is an announcement. Next Thursday will be the Western Towns Association meeting. That will be in the town of Mosinee, and that is a change at time. Start time is 6:45, and they have followed the Eastern towns setup as far as the timing. They're going to eat first at 6:45. So that's the western towns in the town of Mosinee. Any other announcements and or requests? Just another announcement and a reminder to the board is next Tuesday's next meeting. Start time is 7:30 in accordance with the posting. So I know there are some people that didn't catch that last time. So making you aware that the start time for Tuesday's meeting will be 7:30 p.m. Any other announcements? Seeing none, anybody wishes Supervisor Nutting and Supervisor Stark with a second to adjourn? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? We stand adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.